So what happens when you take the tools of modern psychology and apply them to ancient spiritual texts? Well, that's exactly what we're diving into today with Mortimer Ostow's really groundbreaking book, Ultimate Intimacy. It's a work that uses psychodynamics to try and unlock the secrets of Jewish mysticism. The title of the book really gets right to the heart of it. What exactly is ultimate intimacy? And for Ostow, it's way more than just human relationships. He's arguing that it's this profound, often hidden connection between ourselves and the divine. And it's a link we can actually explore by mapping out the landscape of our own minds. Okay, so the main tool we're going to use on this journey is psychodynamics. Just think of it as the study of all those unconscious forces, the hidden currents that shape who we are and why we do the things we do. Basically, it lets us pop the hood on these ancient mystical ideas and see what's making them tick psychologically. And the person leading us through all this is Mortimer Ostow. His work, Ultimate Intimacy, isn't just some dry, religious study. Think of it more like a conceptual map. He's charting the territory where our internal psychological world crashes right into our external quest for spiritual meaning. All right, so first things first, we're going to start by looking inward. Let's dive into the really personal, subjective nature of what a mystical experience even is. So really, what does a mystical experience actually feel like? What's it like on the inside? This is such a crucial place to start because, as Ostow points out, these encounters are intensely personal. There's no one-size-fits-all description here. It's totally unique to the individual. Ostow noticed that when people talk about these experiences, they usually fall into one of two buckets. Some people describe a sudden revelation, bam, like a lightning strike of insight that's both incredible and kind of throws you off balance. Then you've got others who report a gradual awakening, a much slower, more organic shift in how they see the world, kind of like a tree slowly growing new roots. So it doesn't matter if it happens in a flash or over time, these experiences become what Ostow calls organizing myths. Now, when he says myth, he doesn't mean it's fake or not true, not at all. What he means is they're the powerful personal stories we build to make sense of these huge, life-altering shifts in our consciousness. Okay, this is where it gets really interesting, and maybe a little counterintuitive. We're talking about the link between our spiritual lives and our mental health. Ostow looks at this connection super closely, especially when it comes to depression. And this is where we see this really wild paradox. So you'd think someone who's depressed would feel a loss of spiritual connection, right? And they often report that. But Ostow argues the distress itself can actually be the spark. The emotional turmoil can push people to engage more deeply with their spirituality as a way to wrestle with everything they're feeling. And he doesn't stop there. He takes this idea even further, connecting these spiritual moments to personal trauma. Think about someone like the prophet Ezekiel. Ostow suggests that his incredible visions weren't happening despite his immense suffering. They were actually growing right out of it. The two were deeply intertwined. All right, so we've looked at the inner landscape. Now let's zoom out a bit and see how these mystical ideas get built and shared in the outside world through things like language, gender, and how we think about the divine. One of the first roadblocks is just language itself. Ostow makes this great point that when you're translating these really deep concepts from Hebrew, something as simple as how you spell a word in English, like Kabbalah with a K versus Kabbalah with a Q, can lead to totally different interpretations. A profound idea can literally get lost in translation. Speaking of Kabbalah, if we're talking about intimacy in Jewish mysticism, we have to talk about the Shekhinah. This is a really big deal. It's this crucial concept that represents the feminine aspect of God, the divine presence that actually lives within our material world. So in Kabbalah, you've got this fascinating dance happening between the masculine and feminine principles. The masculine is often seen as the divine force that's kind of reaching down into our world. Meanwhile, the feminine, the Shekhinah, is the divine presence that's already here, within the world. It's not a simple opposition. It's this complex, interactive relationship. And this right here is what leads us to the whole idea of ultimate intimacy. The idea is that when these two principles, masculine and feminine, come together, especially through real human intimacy, it becomes this incredibly sacred act. It's a moment where a totally human experience gets elevated to reflect a divine union. Ostow also pulls in this cool psychological idea of archetypes. These are basically the unconscious patterns, the symbolic blueprints that shape how we see everything.
So, for example, the deep-seated idea we all have of the mother can totally shape how we think about the divine feminine. On the flip side, an archetype of the hostile partner might color how we see our human relationships and our idea of a wrathful God.
Okay, let's bring this all home. In this final section, we're going to wrap up Ostow's big ideas and also take a fair look at some of the critiques of his work. So, what's Ostow's biggest strength? It's how he takes these big, sometimes abstract mystical ideas and grounds them in real psychology. For instance, he talks about something he calls the apocalyptic complex. This is where someone's own deep personal despair gets projected outward, and suddenly they're having visions of the world ending. It's a powerful bridge between inner turmoil and mystical experience. But of course, his work isn't without its critics. I mean, his ideas connecting trauma and spirituality are huge, no doubt. But some scholars will say there's a kind of fuzzy logic to his arguments, a bit of ambiguity. His psychoanalytic readings can sometimes feel like they're oversimplifying a really complex spiritual tradition, with statements that are just very open to interpretation.
So, at the end of the day, what Ostow really leaves us with is a much more complete picture. He's really pushing us to see intimacy not as this one simple thing, but as this dynamic dance between our psychological selves, our spiritual search, and our actual real-world relationships. It's a rich, complex map for understanding our human quest for connection.
And all of this leaves us with one final, really big question to chew on. In the vast landscape of our inner lives, where does psychology actually end and spirituality begin? What Ostow's work seems to suggest is that maybe that line doesn't even exist. Maybe it's all just one seamless, mysterious whole.